today's spin fits with my mood. I've been in a training for 5 hours for work, has not finished yet. Was supposed to finish half an hour ago, so I'm doing this pretty quickly if I can. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. I am today here to do my TBR for March. I wrote down here the list. Yes, sorry, don't mind my drawings, they really suck. I'm really bad at drawing, but I try. Journaling relaxes me sometimes. So I am gonna now go through the 10 books that I plan to read for sure in March. I have to admit that in February I didn't as well as in January, so I've actually have to carry on 3 books from February to this TBR. So however, some of my TBRs for the year just include the 10 books, so it's fine if 1 month I carry one over, if it makes sense, as long as I do it just one month. So I'll start with those which I'm not going to discuss basically in any details apart from telling you what they belong to. So I'm carrying over My Best Friend's Exorcist by Grady Hendrix. I've read just 20 pages of these. This is for the horror TBR, and again, this is one of the TBRs that got 10 books in it. So if I carry this over for 1 month, it's not a big deal. Then I'm carrying over Terry Pratchett, A Hat Full of Sky for my Disco World TBR. I have left 8 books in the old series to read, so I can carry one over a month without a big deal, because I don't have 12 to read, but just after these 8. And the last one I am actually carrying over, let me find it, it's Perfume by Patrick Saskind. This is part of my Europe TBR, and this in particular was Germany. However, in that TBR there are like 51 books, because I'm reading one book from an author coming from every European country. So even if I carry one, although it puts me behind in the overall challenge, it's not a big deal because it was not 12 books challenge, if it makes sense. Let's go into the ones that are actually new for March. For the fantasy TBR this month, I am gonna read the military fantasy, and I'm gonna read Leaping Wolf by J.P. Harker. This was very kindly sent me from the author, the whole trilogy, and this is book number 2 in this trilogy. I think at the moment it's a trilogy, but I'm not sure if there are gonna be any other books. The author very kindly can put this information down below in the comments if he's watching this. In the first book, you follow Rhian Wynn. She is part of this tribe. She is a very fierce warrior when she decides to marry and settle down. And apparently everything is going smoothly until the Roman Empire invaded, and Rhian Wynn all of a sudden is forced back to fight and combat for her land and her people. And I really enjoyed the first book. It was a very solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed the twisting, and I really enjoyed how the military aspect of all the book, which is very prominent, was very well done and well described, especially because it was not so familiar with how Romans used to fight and all of that. So I really enjoyed the first one, and I think this is a sequel, but you follow another main character, not Rhian Wynn anymore. However, I'm sure she's gonna make an appearance. This is a big boy, but I've read the first one very quickly, so I'm pretty sure I can read this very quickly as well. And then from my Japanese horror, I'm gonna read Summer Fireworks and My Corpse by Otsuki. This is a collection of 2 short stories, not that short, I guess. Plus there might be a bonus story, but I'm not sure. One of the 2 stories about this girl, young girl, she gets murdered by another bunch of children, and we follow what happens to them from her perspective, from the corpse perspective. And the other short story, it's actually this woman who received an eye transplant, and now she has the memories of a man or woman who had the eyes, the owner of the eyes. It sounds weird, I don't know how to say that. But basically she has their memory, and I guess she sees how they died and what happened to them and all of that. I'm really curious to read these and see how it goes. Short stories are a hit and miss with me, but this sounds kind of chunky short stories if you want. So hopefully there's a lot of meat to it and I enjoy them. Now I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Yes, I know. This is not going as planned, but listen, I am working. I've got 5 essays. 2 I've already done, 3 are due this month. I got my COVID vaccine, for which I was really sick. I got my 2nd dose this month. So bear with me, I'm allowed to cheat a little bit because these are very 2 intense months, February and March. I mean, well, all year round to be fair, but especially these 2 months. But for my jar TBR, usually I pick up my jar, which is up there, sadly sadly. And I pick a random book from my shelves which doesn't belong to any of the reading challenge I'm doing and read that. However, this month I really want to read these because I didn't have a chance in February, and I don't want to get spoiled because I'd be very cross if I get spoiled, and there is nowhere else for me to put this book because although it's a fantasy, my fantasy TBR is already decided and strict, and actually you can find it on my channel. So I am reading from my TBR jar and pretending that from my jar A Court of Silver Flames came out. So yeah, I am cheating here, I admit, but let's pretend I just picked this up from the jar. And this is by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book in the second trilogy, so the first book was A Court of Thorn and Roses, and then we got that trilogy, and then this trilogy we follow the sister of the main protagonist of the first trilogy. And I was a huge fan of the snippets we had of the two main characters in these. We got, especially in the third and second book, I don't want to know the synopsis about this because I don't want to get spoiled at all. And yeah, and everybody knows what pretty much A Court of Thorns and Roses is. And hopefully I'll get obsessed and read this very quickly. Then for my true crime TBR, I have yet to purchase this, but it's in my cart, it's gonna happen very soon. And this is Written in Blood. This is a true crime recounting the story of Michael Pearson. Michael Pearson is the man who is the protagonist of a documentary on Netflix called The Staircase. I've already watched that. I proceeded to actually listen to a podcast which gives you a much better idea of what actually is going on. I discussed this in what I watched recently, and I link it down below because I go in depth and why I didn't really like The Staircase, and I don't think it's a good portrait of actually what happened and who Michael Pearson is. So I was definitely curious to check out this book, which was mentioned in the podcast. I'll also leave down below the link of the podcast if I can. And after listening to that amazing podcast, I definitely wanted to read the book. So this is the story of Michael Pearson, who stood accused of actually killing his wife, but his version of events is that she fell down the stairs. And yeah, that was very far-fetched. If you get to know the injuries that she presented with, then yeah, it didn't make any sense. However, people were very divided in kind of pointing the finger at him because he's a very likable character if you just see The Staircase, for example. And so there are people who believe him, his story, the version, and other people who don't. And I'm definitely among the people who don't. But I don't after kind of documenting myself properly. And I hope that this book will wrap up things nicely and hopefully tell me things I didn't even get from The Staircase. Definitely, we didn't get much from that and the podcast. Then from my finishing series TBR, where I'm actually finishing series I've started ages ago, I'm gonna read Eternal Dawn by Rebecca Maisel. This is a YA fantasy book that I read probably when I was 15. I'm not kidding, so it's been ages. And I remember really liking it because in this case we are following a female who's turned into a vampire, and she's very ruthless, if I remember correctly. And then we get her to modern days after centuries has passed, and then she has to go to this boarding school and interact with humans and see them not as only food, but as people that she can get attached to. That's what I remember, but it's been ages, more than a decade since I read this first. So I don't know if I'm gonna like it or hate it. I'm ready to DNF this if I hate it because I don't want to ruin the idea I had of my initial series, but hopefully I won't. Hopefully I get through this very quickly. It's hugely written, so it shouldn't be a problem. And for my DV memoir, I'm gonna read Scared Silent. I don't know anything about this. I've ordered this ages ago and it still has to arrive in the post. So hopefully it comes from March, it should be. And again, this is a DV memoir, domestic violence memoir, so a survivor recounting her story of domestic violence and how she survived it or fled or whether. And I'm gonna do a separate review for this. The last one is my non-fiction choice for the month. Again, with this I don't have a set TBR, I just choose what I want because I have quite a lot of non-fiction just randomly throughout the month. This time I'm gonna read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Dougherty. And this was going around booktube a bunch of years ago, but I think this is a non-fiction where the author, who used to work in a mortuary, tells us about what we don't know after you die and what happens to your body, hospital weather, what happens to the body and how it's cremated and all that. That's just me guessing from the cover, but I'm pretty sure that she analyzes like traditions from death rituals around, so what people around the world do with their corpses and dead people, and also what we can do probably here in Western cultures. I don't know, hopefully. I'm very intrigued about this. It's probably one of the first ones I'm gonna finish, just because I don't know, I know it's morbid, but at the same time I'm very curious because it's one of the topics that I kind of know nothing about. Apart from like investigation side of you, like I know what happens when you die because you're killed, but I don't know what happens in general or traditions around the corpses and how a normal corpse is then treated, basically. I'm stumbling upon my words, so I'll stop here. And before I go, I just wanted to say that this channel is just about books. I do not discuss my private life on here, and any comment that I think is inappropriate, I just cancel and ignore it. Instead of me spending time saying get lost, I just cancel the comment. So I don't want inappropriate comments to be on my channel if I can avoid that. So they're gonna just be ignored. So if you're not here to talk about books and you're not kind, or you don't do it in a kind way, in a supportive way, get lost. I'm gonna ignore you. Just putting out there because I've been struggling with some comments lately. But thank you for watching, guys. Have a lovely day, evening, depending where you are, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!